All right, happy Monday. You got Joe Rosen, Lissette, Hurtado here, and today we're going to have a little bit of fun talking about home inspections. Before we get into home inspections and some of the wilder stories we've got, right? This is wild for real estate, so don't get too excited. But before I get into it, I want to explain kind of how a home inspection works, right? Home inspectors within the state of Florida, and within whatever state you're in, right, are required to meet certain state guidelines. They don't just go in and make up what they're going to do. They have to follow certain state guidelines. So those guidelines have them inspecting some things and not inspecting other things. And you can pay more to have virtually anything you want inspected. When you go to a purchase agreement, I want to say it's line 261, states a number of days. It's blank. You can enter whatever you want in there. You can enter nothing. I don't want an inspection, or 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 9 days, 23 days. It doesn't matter. And that's how many days you get for your inspection contingency. Now, that means a couple different things. That doesn't just mean you got to get the inspection done by that date. It also means anything you're requesting because of that inspection has to be all wrapped up, negotiated, agreed upon, not agreed upon, whatever the result is by that date, right? So if you've got 5 days and you have your inspection on the 5th day, that means you got to do some quick negotiating, right? Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as we're going through some of these stories. Lissette, why don't you start us off? I know I said I was going to go back and forth, but man, I want to hear one of your stories first.
Okay, so one of the ones that's the most memorable inspection in my head, and actually it was really nice and really touching. This was during the election period. So I had the seller, the other agent had the buyer. We had buyer and seller, which were very obvious on two separate spectrums of what was going on in the current time.
Politically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the seller really wanted to be there for the inspection, which sometimes I'm like, listen, I'll be there. I'll be your representation and I'll give you the feedback. Well, he wanted to show up and stay the entire inspection. So I thought this was going to be super tense.
Yep.
We started conversations. One thing led to another. And these two individuals ended up bonding like we had never expected before. Me and the other agent were speechless when we see both of them in tears together, bonding over the seller letting go of this house that he cherished so much and he took so much care of. And the buyer who was struggling so hard to find a property, finally made an offer, finally was accepted. We had appraisal issues, but we came over all that and they just bonded and ended up in tears. At the end of the inspection. It was absolutely amazing. And it was the best inspection I ever had. There were some minor issues which made us negotiating those issues even easier because they both respected each other and were actually looking for each other's best interests as well. Yep. So that one was pretty cool. And then you have other situations, which I've been very lucky I have not been part of, but I've heard. Where, inspections is also a very stressful time for a seller. You have someone in your home going through every little space of your home. And that's your personal property. That's your personal space. And this individual felt like he was getting, invaded, like he didn't like it. He didn't enjoy it. And I guess he couldn't control his anger. And it got to the point where he kicked out the inspector and the buyer.
Why?
Somehow, they actually found moisture in the baseboard.
And he was offended.
He was offended. He took offense to that and said that was not true. And they needed to get out of his property immediately. But somehow the agents must have been, great agents. They made it happen and ended up closing on the property. But I heard it was really, really stressful and there was a lot of tension at that inspection. So you'll have both end of,
And you'll see too, and I'm sure Lissette will agree with me, sellers are always going to say, my home is beautiful, there's no problems, I'm not worried about it. And I'll always warm them up to the fact that you might feel that way, but you can, listen, I love my house. I think my house is beautiful. It's clean, everything else. You get an inspector out here, I guarantee on my beautiful, clean house, there's going to be 25 issues on that report. There just are. And it's with every house. New construction has things pop up, but it's really challenging to get the seller to be objective about it and not get their feelings hurt. It's completely understandable. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that before. With me personally, I think it's a great idea for the buyer to be at the inspection, right? It's the best place to ask questions. When you read it, it might look scary, but if you can see it in person, it might not be that scary at all. To understand it, especially with the pro, the inspector, is so helpful. But that seller, my gosh, get out of the house.
Yeah.
I also don't want clients talking, right? How many times have you had a deal either fall apart or almost fall apart because people let go a little too much info? I mean, that's what you're paying us for, is to represent your best interests. And then you go in and give away all the goods, and all of a sudden you're paying 5-10 grand more for a house because you said something, right? So you made some great points there. I've got a couple stories, and I'll tell you, the whole idea for this video popped up when my good friend Devin Morante with DBJ Inspections put a post up. Did you see his post about the inspection? And he had gone into, so they do what's called an 11-month inspection, right? So for new construction, you've got a 10-2-1 warranty. That 1-year warranty covers a lot, right, from the builder. So it's very valuable as a buyer of new construction to get an inspector to come in at 11 months, because everything's still under warranty. Anything they find, that builder's going to be responsible for fixing, usually, not always, but usually. So Devin had gone into the attic and he posted a photo of it. Zero insulation, no insulation, right? I actually had this happen on a prior property, but it was at the time of original inspection, right? So we caught it, got the insulation in there, bada bing, bada boom. It happens, okay? And with a builder, you've got different subs coming in. You got a flooring guy, you got a shell guy, you got a roofing guy, you got an insulation guy. If someone doesn't show up, everybody's human, right? You could miss it. So getting that inspector out there, holy smokes, in both those cases was incredibly important. Here's another one. This is one of my clients. One of my clients came in, got an inspection done, very happy with the inspection. Everything was good to go. I told this person, like, I give them a whole list. They know exactly what to do, when to do it, why to do it, all that good stuff. They did not get the insurance quote as I'd recommended. So they waited because they were cash. They didn't need it for the loan or anything. They could get it whenever. So they got it about a week before closing, and they were not getting credits that they assumed they were going to get, you know. So they wanted the wind mitt changed. Well, the inspector said, we can't just change the wind mitt because you want better insurance. You have to actually change the house, and then we'll change the wind mitt. And they said, well, then I'm going to back out because I'm not happy with this. So either the seller's going to fix these things or I'm backing out. Once you're through that number we were talking about on line 261, whether it's 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, once you're through it, which we were, that negotiation period is now closed. You are moving forward. And if you're cash, you don't even have a financing contingency. You are moving forward. So I had to explain to that client, listen, said right here, we should have gotten that done. We didn't get it done until now. You don't really have a lot of recourse here. And if you back out, you risk losing your escrow deposits. They weren't happy. But again, guys, when you're working with somebody and they give you checklists and deadlines, you want to make sure you follow through with that stuff. It wasn't a big deal. This is something they were going to get fixed anyway. But I'm guessing it cost him $4, $5, $6 extra $100 that he wouldn't have had to pay. Otherwise, you know, had he negotiated that up front. And honestly, he probably would have paid it anyway. It's kind of one of those expectation managements. Had he gotten it done up front, he would have understood it. He would have been like, okay, that's just kind of the deal. I'll fix it after closing. He would have bought into it mentally. But once he found out later, it was just frustrating, right? Here's another one. Termites. Had a home where we discovered termites, and I had the buyer. So I called my favorite local termite company, and I said, hey, we've got a problem over at 123 3rd Street. Can I get you to take a look at it? Oh, we were just out there 3 months ago. They actually had a lot of termite damage, and they hadn't fixed it since we had talked to them. We were supposed to come back out and do all these remedy things, and we didn't do any of them. I said, really? So then we came back and talked to the seller, and we didn't tell them what we had found out. I just said, hey, have you ever had this looked at? No, this is the first time I ever found out about it. Oh, really? Have you lived in the house for the last 6 to 12 months? Yeah, we've lived here for, I'm making this up, it's 6, 7, 8 years. Plenty of time to have been able to see something that happened 90 days ago. So we ended up using that as a huge negotiation tool. We got it all taken care of, plus more for my buyer. And my buyer ended up getting a pretty sweet deal out of it. But honestly, had that seller been forthright and just told us, we probably would have just gotten it fixed, and that would have been the end of it. But they ended up getting thousands of dollars out of it for the lack of disclosure. So that was another big one. And here's the last one. When you are a seller, a lot of times when you hear of any issue, whatever it is, you're going to say, a lot of times the listing agent will say, hey, buyer's agent, can you send me that inspection report? I want to see what it is. I want to show my seller. In my opinion, that is one of the dumbest things you could ask for, because the second you see that whole report, if you lose the buyer, you have to now disclose all of those issues. You are now aware that an inspector came in, a licensed and insured inspector came in and told you these are the problems with your home. So the second I show you as a buyer's agent all those issues, you better hope my buyer buys, because if my buyer doesn't buy, your seller's disclosures are going to be a mile long, right? And it's the way every house is. Like I said, I think I've got a beautiful home. My home's going to have 20, 25 issues too. They just are. But I don't know what they are right now, so I don't have to disclose all of them. I have to disclose the things I know of. But if you have someone coming in professionally and pinpointing all the issues, it's going to be long. So we came in and I said, okay, I'm going to show you the report. They didn't want to wheel and deal with us on it was wood rot underneath a wood windowsill. So I said, hey, either you're going to negotiate with us and get this done, or I'm going to hold your feet to the fire and I'm going to make you put seller's disclosures out there that disclose all these things. And if you don't, we're going to find that buyer afterwards, talk to him, and we're going to ask him if you disclosed all these things. So then they came back a day later and they were upset and, whatever issues they had with the negotiations. And they said, okay, we'll fix the wood rot. But just remember that as a listing agent, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear other opinions on this, hey, to get the one page with the one issue, great. But to ask for the whole report, in my opinion, is absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts on that, Lissette?
No, I couldn't agree more. I always ask for where in the report it's found, if they could send me that page, because it also gives you sometimes some suggestions on how to get it fixed. And then the seller sees it, it's on the report, they understand, and then we can move forward. We have something concrete. But the buyer's paying for that report. That is the buyer's information, and you are limiting your risk and your liability by not viewing the entire report as well. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And if we get an ugly inspection and I get a listing agent who I think may not understand that, I'm going to send it to them and I'm going to make sure they open it, and I'm going to confirm verbally that they opened it. And now I've got so much more leverage for my buyer, because I know all these issues, right? So just a lot of different things inspection wise. Guys, if you're doing a for sale by owner, you will save half of a commission, right? You still got to pay the buyer's agent. You're not going to get rid of that. Either that or you're getting rid of 98% of the buyer pool, which means your price is probably limited considerably, right? So you're only getting rid of half the commission. And that half the commission is the half the commission that represents you in issues like this, that understands little strategies like this, right? So I would never say use a realtor, don't use a realtor, whatever, but there is a lot of value in that. Do I want to pay an attorney when I go to court? No, I'd rather go myself and save that fee, but holy smokes, I know I don't know what the heck I'm doing in a courtroom. I'm smart enough to know that I'm probably going to lose more money than whatever I paid that attorney, right? Do I want to perform my own expensive surgery? I don't want to pay the doctor, but guess what? I want my stomach to function properly. So I cannot say enough, especially when it comes to inspections, about really getting a professional agent who's done a lot of closings in there. Lissette, any last words of wisdom for our great viewers here?
Sure. I think the major way we could avoid a lot of these issues is if you get a pre-listing inspection.
Boom! Thank you.
Yeah, for what it costs, a few $100, you have this person come into your home and you could address the majority, if not all, these issues before listing the property, or have them disclose and you know what the cost is going to be. And, there's no major surprises or issues that you're going to face down the road. You've already disclosed everything, all issues, if there's any, with your property.
I love that. And you know me, man, I'm a huge fan of that. I try to get all of my sellers to spend, it's like $300-400, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you've got a lower end home, it is literally 1% or maybe even less than, no, not 1%, 0.1% of your home's value. And you're literally making the buyer feel comfortable with everything that you've got, right? That buyer can see everything. You've disclosed everything. You've saved them the $300-400. You've also gotten rid of the excuse to need to pay for an inspection and get the inspection contingency onto that contract. So now you got one less contingency. It's just, it is the best strategy that I see virtually zero listing agents using. and it would save so many deals, so much money, so many heartaches. And honestly, I see people getting way more money because of it all the time. And if your home is a turd, if you've got some issues that are going to pop up anyway, wouldn't you rather know about them now so you can handle them, right? Whether it's a price change, whether it's fixing them, whether it's, giving a credit, you can approach it logically and on your own pace versus finding out mid-transaction. Now we've got emotions involved, right? So that was a great point. That was a great point. Lissette, I appreciate it. I hope you have a phenomenal day. And guys, if you have any questions after seeing this video, post them in the comments here and we'll get back to you. I appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
Have a great one, guys.